We should be connecting any moment. One. Maybe. Maybe you will. Right? Yeah. Waiting for some friends. Looks like we are connected, which is wonderful. Howdy, friends. So as you start to come and hang out... Oh, it's Owen. Do us a favor and let us know if you can hear what we are saying. With a little note in the chatty chat. It's almost ThursdAGE. Okay, nice. We're going to check something here real quick. If my calculations are correct. Let's see here. Nice. I do believe, just gonna double check. You're gonna hear a little double noise there. You wanna know why? Audio's coming through on Twitch. Yeah. That's what I've been messing around with. Nice, Apu can hear you. Okay, so can you hear Owen KC Stephens? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Holy smokes. Jason Waltman says, I'm Owen's moral support fan.
Aw.
That's sweet. How about now, friends? Can you? Brian Furman's here. Hey, Brian. Brian's back to hang out again. Brian's a buddy from, wow, way back in the day.
Alliance or Horde?
You know, it's so funny. I'm not sure what... Ray doesn't hear anything, see anything. Chase says, hello. We can, but he's much quieter. Okay, great. You can hear Owen, but not myself, huh?
I can be louder.
Would you please? Would you please?
Being louder is one of my many talents.
Zion.
Not many, but it is genuinely something I can do.
Let's...
Something stupid like...
Yeah, actually, Brian and I met. Owen is much quieter. Owen, turn up that audio. Someone says that may not really be your fault, actually.
Alright, I am now cranked up as high as I will go.
And can you hear Troy at all? Not you, but you. And you, and you, and you. Go ahead and talk with our friends, Owen. They should be able to hear me here in a moment.
Okay, fair enough.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry. I'm totally talking over you because I was. You know, it's so funny, Owen. I was talking over you to tell you that they can hear me loudly and you not so much. Great. We're gonna play around. Go ahead, Owen. You do your thing, my friend.
I thought today we would talk a little bit about the state of the Fantasy Age core rulebook, which, as most ThursdAlians know, because that's I think what we settled on, ThursdAlian, right?
Mm-hmm.
is the thing that we're currently working on. That is a revised core rulebook for Fantasy Age, and it is not a new addition so much as it is a expansion and improvement and quality of life upgrade to the existing system. The most important thing being you should be able to take any of your existing books and use the Fantasy Age core rulebook with them, including Trojan War, which we released last week. One of the things I have not been talking about at all with that book is the campaign setting that is going in it, and I have beaten around the bush on that. I've said that it is not Freeport, and it's not the continent of Freeport, and it's not anything that we had done previously with Fantasy Age backgrounds or anything from any of the adventures that we put out for Fantasy Age. But I did mention that you can get to Freeport from there. So we are starting you in a place. I'm getting a lot of people saying, is Owen calling in from the bottom of a well? So apparently I am very hard to hear. I'm sorry, folks. We're working on that.
We're doing that right now. But yes, he is also calling from the bottom of a well, which is what makes this so impossible to put together.
I mean, I do have my my underground compound that I use for safety purposes, but normally the hard line of audio out takes care of that. Anyway, we are planning on starting people in a new location that we are calling Breakwater Bay. And there will be a short chapter on what Breakwater Bay is like, and there will be a short introductory adventure to introduce characters to Breakwater Bay. And Breakwater Bay is on the same sets of strange oceans that Freeport is, but if you've ever paid attention to the Lomelings have not been munching on the wires. Stan Brown blamed my allies, the Lomelings, for munching on the wires on the ground. They're absolutely not doing that, I assure you. I apparently now sound marginally better. The idea of this setting is that there's a lot of continuity and history and specific timelines and stuff for Freeport. And that did not all work well for what we wanted to do in the way of an introductory setting. We wanted to be able to say, here's the place, what you should know about it, you can read a little bit, and you can really get into it. Because there are literally mystical oceans, supernatural things, including a concept known as foils. People who are mystic navigators can reach places on these oceans by sailing through these strange tides, if you will, to arrive in places that you can't get to, or at least can't get to reliably if you don't know what you're doing. So Freeport is one of those things that is out there that the people of Breakwater Bay... Oh, and now apparently there's no audio at all from Owen. So I'm not going to keep talking. Wait, no, maybe now they can hear me. Bang, I heard. The idea is that it'll be a new, similar setting. Great, I'm loud and clear now. Awesome. Which will still do a lot of the things that people who liked our sort of swashbuckling, mild horror fantasy focus that is what we did with a lot of Fantasy Age. We still want to be able to cover all those bases, but we're doing it with a new, smaller island, a new, smaller starting area, and that is connected to Freeport through these mystic oceans. But then again, just about anything can be connected to it through these oceans. For example, if you wanted to have the Mystic Troy setting as someplace that you could get to, then Breakwater Bay becomes someplace that, Odysseus could have hit on his 10-year voyage to try and get home. And I'm really excited about the setting. It was something that was brainstormed by several people in Green Renine, but the primary outline was written by myself, and then it was modified and greatly improved and fleshed out by Steve Kenson. And I think a lot of people know how big a fan I am of Steve Kenson. He does some great world building things, and I'm very excited about the setting. So that's one of the things that, and we didn't need to play test that because it's not a rules concept. It's a setting concept. The rules will support being able to go there and support things like Mystic Navigators. But we just wanted to have an option that was easier to get into for starts than the fairly dense setting that is Freeport. I mean, we put out more than 500-page book on Freeport. And if you have that book, which is for first edition Pathfinder, you can absolutely use that setting material, either in part or in whole, in the same game world as Breakwater Bay. And we're going to mention that Freeport is a place that people have heard of, but Freeport is sort of cranking things up to 11, and we wanted to start with something a little gentler with that to make it easier for people to pick up the game, pick it up quickly, understand what they're doing, and get into play ASAP. And it also gave us an opportunity to explore some new things. Since we have a new core rulebook and we're going to do some new adventures, we wanted to have something to show people that they might not have seen before. At the same time, if you want to take all this stuff and put it in Freeport, you can either have Breakwater Bay be just right across the street, essentially, from Freeport, right? Like a 2-day sail and do both settings. Or you can take anything that we put in Breakwater and move it to Freeport. So again, we don't want to invalidate what anyone's already doing and playing with these games. We just want to create new options and new possibilities while at the same time having a new jumping on point for brand new players. Wow, I can't hear Troy apparently. But as long as people can hear me, I guess I will keep talking. That is a big part of what we're doing in the new core rulebook. That's a whole chapter. The new introductory adventure is obviously a new chapter. And then I've been going through the playtest feedback and making changes to the final text, which will then get another pass from people at Green Ronin, and it'll get a professional editing pass, and then eventually it'll go on to layout and print. There are a lot of little copy and paste kind of errors that we've been looking through that I think are important for us to get right, just to avoid confusion. And these are some of the things that the playtest was really great about. I mean, for example, we specifically say that brawling is an accuracy focus when we discuss ability focuses and when we do the full rundown on ability focuses. And then in a couple of examples, we instead say, hey, you can make a fighting brawling check. And that obviously confuses the issue because we don't have fighting brawling as an option. At the same time, there are some things that we added, including some focuses that we didn't give descriptions to, or some of our ancestries don't have a connected ancestry specialization. And I want to make sure that all of those are in the same footing. There was some feedback about whether various ancestries felt more or less powerful and more or less interesting than each other. I'm not as worried about powerful. I think it's perfectly capable to have things that are not balanced in one situation be balanced with a different play style. But I am worried if I get frequent feedback that says option C just seems less fun. We don't ever want to have a less fun option, even if we aren't pinching every penny and balancing every die roll to try and make sure that we have maximum balance. Joy, good buddy, are you out there? Can you hear me?
I'm out here, but I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
We have an Owen echo. So, hey, Owen, do me a favor. Why don't you dive into some of these questions? Great. Yeah, we'll have a little... We're going to fix an echo here. It's what you get when you try to do magic. Sometimes you gotta... He's starting to echo with power. Yes, indeed he is. Yes, so there are some questions here. One of them, Owen, is what is your first adventure in Freeport going to be about? Well, so why don't we back up a little bit and talk about a little bit about what our goals are here as far as this program, ThursdAGE, because I think we might have dove into this without a lot of preamble because, you couldn't talk. So go ahead. You go ahead while I twist some knobs and do some dials. Excellent. Thank you, Nicholas.
We already have a Fantasy Age adventure for Freeport out. There's Death in Freeport, which is the very first Freeport adventure that was originally done for 3.0 rules using the OGL 20 years ago. So we've got one of those out, and you certainly could adapt that to different settings, but it is very much tied to Freeport. One of the things I want to do with ThursdAGE in general and with the Green Ronin line of Fantasy Age products is have more adventure support. That is also something I hope will happen through the Age Creators Alliance, which we talked about with Meredith Gerber, and having some people being able to take their campaign settings and their adventure material and make that available to people on a commercial basis. But even without depending on what those people are doing, I hope that we will have more solid adventure content. I don't know when we will get around to linking that explicitly to Freeport. We might well have sidebars that talk about doing it in Freeport. Freeport is just a monster, and it's a very specific monster. And I want to give our new Breakwater Bay setting and the things that we have set up to be part of the adventure for it a chance to shine before we go herring off and doing adventures specifically linked to other things. At the same time, part of the whole point of having the coils and the mystic tides and mystic navigators is to give game masters and players an option to have their settings roam and go other places and add new things without having to change the core of what they're doing. In fact, the idea that things can be easier or harder to get to through those tides is tied into this new setting, and that there was a sort of mistrusted island nation that used to be able to have easy access to the main campaign setting, and then for a long time, for whatever reasons, the stars were not properly aligned, the tides weren't running, the elder gods were sleeping too easily. It drifted further away, and so contact became less and less and less. And now recently that level of contact is cranking up again, and that gives us a opportunity to have a new rising threat, which has some strong narrative possibilities, right? People can look into it because it used to be a problem, so they can do research, and if you've got history lore or whatever, you can pick up some cool information. But since it's a new problem, you understand why the existing framework of the city hasn't solved it already. Sometimes in an adventure, you're being told, so that this wood is dangerous, and those mines are haunted, and there are 27 different assassin guilds that rule the streets, and you wonder, why does anybody live here? And how has this not been wiped from the face of the earth before we came along? One of the nice things about a rising threat, a growing threat, is that it is intuitive to players. Oh, this wasn't a problem last year, but it's becoming more and more of a problem, and we don't have to be the people that deal with it, but someone has to be, and there isn't already a system in place to do that.
So I want to check real quick. How's my audio? Everybody can hear me. You know, we've got Chase 314 is hanging out and listening and hearing on Twitch. I'm so excited about that. I could do something. That's really great. I'm just waiting for people to say you sound like the DJ of my dreams, Troy. But until they do that, Jason Waltman asked a great question, whom Jason has expressed that they're here for as moral support for you, Owen. So, and they want to know a more of a broad question, but talk about, like, when it comes to publishing, what is your biggest challenge, or what's the tough side of the biz?
So there are two major challenges, in my opinion, with publishing, specifically publishing for a tabletop role-playing game market. The first is that the devil is in the details, and that can be an issue both with getting everything done and with maintaining the motivation to get everything done. I have said more than once that one of the reasons that I have done more campaign setting material and more rules setting material than adventures is that I am excited to write an adventure right up to the point that I have written everything I need to run that adventure. But that's not enough for someone else to run that adventure. I can't just have shorthand notes that say, like, this character is a jerk. That's all I might need to know, but I need to be more specific if I'm telling another player or another GM how to run that, because I won't be there to explain to him what I mean by that and what I had in my head, where my notes just have to remind me what I was planning on doing. And that gap between having enough material that I can run it, so I know the plot points, I know the starting, I've got the beats worked out, and the end point where someone else can run that adventure, that is a lot less exciting for me. It is, in fact, frequently dull. And, I'm a professional. It's work. You get paid for it. I'm not saying I won't do it, but it is one of the reasons why when I have two opportunities, I frequently take the one that does not involve getting that adventure section finished, which is one of the nice things about being a developer, and that I can assign someone else to write. I work on an outline, give it to a writer, the writer can write it, bring it back, then I can develop it, so that there's less of that section I don't want to get into. But those devils in the details apply to a lot of little things. past the text, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen for a game book to come out. You've got to have a budget that will account for your cover and your layout and the editing and the internal art. You have to worry about the page count. You got to figure out a price point. You got to figure out where to print it. These days, when you're worrying about where to print it, you have to worry about things like international shipping slowdowns and value-added taxes, and whether or not, say, a major English-speaking nation decided to drop out of an economic commonwealth, so suddenly they've got their own rules on everything. And most professionals in the game industry did not enter the game industry in order to mess with international shipping and import and value-added tax laws. That's not the part that excited us. So it's sort of writ large, that gap between the fun part and the rest of it that has to happen. If you want your book sold, in a bookstore, it has to have an ISBN number. If you want it to be carried by distributors, you have to write a solicitation for it. You have to get it to them weeks to months in advance. And when you're doing it months in advance, you're guessing. I'm guessing that we will have the layout done. I'm guessing that the print job will be finished. But you got to guess as close as you can, because you can't say, well, I'll give myself an extra 6 months slack, because then your books may be sitting in the warehouse representing an investment of money that is currently costing more money because you're paying for warehousing them, as opposed to investment of money that you can make money on by selling it. So those are all tricky things. And, I don't want to scare anyone off. You can start in a much smaller scale, right? When I was first publishing my own material, even when I was doing it through, for example, like Super Genius Games in the mid-aughts, all I really needed to know was, hey, what text format do you all need it in? And they took care of marketing and layout and such. But one of the reasons I liked working with them and eventually being made a partner in that company is it allowed me to pick up more and more and more of how that worked. And one of the reasons I really appreciated my time at Paizo was because I could pick up more and more and more of the internal publishing rules of operation, everything that has to happen. And same with being a developer for Green Ronin. Ownership at Green Ronin is very inclusive when having these conversations and talking about what's a good print run, etc. So that is all one huge end of things. The other big end of things is you've got to guess what people want. And this is another good reason that we have ThursdAGE, so that we can talk to people and ask, what do you want? I suspect half of the products in the RPG industry, the tabletop RPG industry, that are financial failures, half of them were things that were conceptually what people wanted, but weren't done the way those people wanted them. And half were things that not enough people wanted, even if the creators were really passionate about it. And there are just no guarantees. One of the things I think became brilliant about Kickstarter, which is why so many people have used it, is that I do not consider a Kickstarter that does not fund to be a failure. I consider that to be a successful exploration of being told there aren't enough people interested in this product. If I decide, hey, I really want to make a high-end 900-page book that is all about the texture of the crackling of sugar on the top of halfling battle muffins. And I mean 900 pages just on that one super specific topic. And I say, and it'll take $20,000 to do that, and I go to Kickstarter, and I make $52.50, I know there are not, even though this seemed brilliant, even though that is a topic that has never been covered in this level of depth before in the role-playing game venue, I know that just aren't enough people interested. On the other hand, if I do that and I say I need $20,000 and I get $50,000, I can say, well, not only is there a market there, but it's a decent sized market.
Right.
And the pre-order system doesn't work as well as it used to, so it's really useful for that. You got to guess things like how big a print run are you going to do, and there's just a lot of very unfun, real business, money, warehousing, shipping, return, cost things. And we got a wonderful team at Green Ronin that handles that. And like the customer service crew at Paizo are some of the best people I've ever gotten to talk to. They're a big part of Paizo's success. But it's a part that people that are just wanting to go to a store or go online and buy these things tend not to think about the unglamorous end of things, which to me are at least as crucial as the fun, creative stuff, because there are a lot of people that are excited to do the fun and creative stuff. Green Ronin could get rid of me and replace me with someone else that's excited to, they might not do as good a job, but they can find someone who's excited to be the Fantasy Age developer in a heartbeat. Finding someone who's excited to get complaints on emails and Kickstarters and online forums and deal with people Twitter without ticking them off. That's a lot less fun for a lot of people.
Well, and I want to, there's a request for the statting of the battle muffin. I will say that sounded really kind of delicious, and we should talk about that before we end the show today. But, hey, Jay Gray is here. Jay Gray, good to see you, my friend. It is nice that you are, that you joined us. I know that we had some friends that had to drop off, but Duke Igthorn is here and says, hey guys, I made it late, but oh well. Hi, Owen and Troy. You know, Duke, now that you're here, we can start the show. And we've been talking for a half hour, just waiting for you to get here. But now that you're here, I feel like we can begin.
We're just sitting about having coffee, that's all.
That's right. It's coffee chat. That's all we're doing. Jay Gray says, sorry, I was promoted and have little time. I am not surprised. Congratulations on the promotion, I guess.
As long as you being promoted is a good thing, congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if it's like my diet is promoting tooth decay kind of promotion, that might be a bad, you might want to floss. Let's see here. Chinese death battle muffins. Let's see, we already have variations on a recipe.
The Chinese battle muffins are actually a reference from the Charlie's Angels movies.
Oh, the new Charlie's Angels movies?
Not the most recent one, no, the ones before that, the Drew Barrymore ones.
Oh, right. I thought that, okay, so they did the remake with Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore kind of produced it, and then they came out with more?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was one a couple, 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to look into that, but...
A Barrymore-less one.
A Barrymore-less?
Mm-hmm.
Barrymore-less. That sounds like another kind of muffin. Hey, so let's do this. I want to pivot to the discussion of the hour, which is where we're talking about doing some, discussing some drafts so describe what we're going to do, and then are you going to describe the shape and the color and the verbiage as we move through this, or did you want to share something visual?
Really, right now, it's just still waves of text, which are uninteresting.
Yeah, we can share that.
There's, we have cover art. This is not the time to tease the cover art. I adore the cover art. I want to show it to you all. Hal Mangold, who's one of the owners and our art director, getting that thing ordered and put together, did a fantastic job with it. And the artist, and even who the artist is a secret I don't want to reveal yet. But it's someone I'm really pleased to have doing the cover art for the Fantasy Age
I'll admit it. It is a boudoir shot of me. I'm lounging.
So it was Troy, but then we decided that they wouldn't let us print that in China, so we had to change it.
Yeah, or America.
Look, we have our story and we're sticking with it.
That's right. Okay, awesome. That's exciting.
So that'll be a lot of fun. When we get around to that, but that's going to be much closer to the end of this part of the process. No, it's like so this book is, obviously it's broken into chapters. The chapters are all to a certain extent interconnected. So one of the things I have been doing recently is going through all of the playtest feedback and the errata type of feedback that we got when they say something like, You specifically said that bandages can be found in this package, and then that package doesn't have bandages. And then I have to search everywhere we may have mentioned bandages in every chapter and make sure they're good. So, but there's also some flavor things. I think the two most compelling pieces of feedback we got from the playtest, the two things that I've wrestled the most with, was being told that humans aren't fun. That they just don't strike people as interesting and full of opportunities to make great characters, and that rogues felt too vaguely defined, that people weren't sure what a rogue was supposed to do now that we had the envoy. Basically, the previous version of the rogue class did some sneaky things and some archery things and some talky negotiating things, And obviously the envoy is now better at the talky negotiating thing, and the warrior is better at the straight killing fighting thing. And there were some people that felt that we had cut too deeply into the niche for the rogue, and that's exactly the sort of feedback I've wanted. That's one of the most useful things. And that's a case where there are multiple kinds of feedback, but even just people saying, my rogue doesn't seem as fun as it used to. That still tells me something. And then there are people that analyze, well, the rogue used to have this many specializations that were rogue only, and then none of those are in the core book. And it turns out you have some of the fantasy companion that seem perfect. That's also great. So, but again, once I have the rogue rewritten and set, I have to go through everywhere we've talked about them, like every example that uses a rogue, for example, and make sure that we don't have references to the previous version of the rules before we made these quality of lives and errata tweaks and thought better of it that we've revised. So the first 6 chapters are within hours, by which I mean days, apparently, of being done, and then I can use that to tighten up the back end of things. Like the adventure and the campaign setting are written, but I want the rules to be completely nailed down to a final format in order to make one more pass through them and make sure that those are written to the final version of the rules. I expect that there will be almost no changes necessary, but it's still one more thing that we need to do. I did see that Jay Gray asked, do you have signups for playtesting, or do you have set playtesters? We did playtesting earlier this year. We talked about it on ThursdAGE. I'm sorry you missed it, but that while if someone had playtest notes and they sent them to me, I would desperately try and take the time to look at it. Basically, we're past the point where we can spend a lot of time on playtesting, and we're not getting in new playtesters anymore.
But,
we have gone...
go ahead.
We've gotten past that point to the implementing the
right.
50 or so groups worth of playtest feedback we got.
It was great, and I want to thank all the playtesters. But Jay Gary, you know your fam, and we love you. And while that particular window has passed, we're talking about some plans to get the band back together as we start to move towards a more release sort of environment. But keep, send me a note reminding me of this conversation. I do connect with Brian Irving, who says humans aren't fun has been my excuse for staying home with my cats for the last 40 odd years. Same. My friend, same. Brian Furman says, let my DM of over 10 years know who I was watching and wanted to pass along a message from him. Let him know that he contributed to many hours of enjoyment at our game table through multiple Star Wars and M&M campaigns. Brian says he echoes that as well. You're welcome, gentlemen. It's been my pleasure to be... Wait, are they talking about me?
No, I'm sure they're talking about you, Troy.
I think so too. Yeah. Probably that time that I painted myself gold and I was like, I'm R2D2. Right? Is that right?
Wow. So you're really trying to bump the search engine optimization by having people rage against the machine, huh?
I really am. I just shouldn't taunt the Star Wars, but no, Owen, you have a long and storied career. You're a talented and your work is loved by many, and so it's nice to see that people are coming by and remembering the stuff that you had done. Now, someone said something about the Great Undoing.
Yeah, that's a Star Wars reference. Just for note, when Disney took over, basically Disney said everything that is not in the movies is no longer canon unless we mention it again, and then it's canon. And from now on, everything is the same level of canon. So from the Disney era forward, movies and animated series and tie-in novels and information written on the back of lunchboxes is all considered the same degree of canon, which is not how it was handled in the Lucasfilm days.
Yeah, that a very painful shift in the Force, if you will. Thank you, Rain, for Troy's body is art and chaos. I'm not sure why we're focusing on my body today, but. Please,
yeah, you're the one doing it, Troy.
It's hilarious is I'm disembodied, so
well, just because you are because your voice is disembodied doesn't mean your body isn't out there somewhere doing something. I always assumed it was mowing the lawn while we did this.
If only. I wish it would do some dishes and some laundry as well, but yeah. So I can't believe it's already 2:39. You had talked about various stages of being done.
Yeah.
But But let's manage some expectations and just kind of talk about that sort of being done process. There are phases, yeah.
Yeah, there are absolutely phases. So we are in what I consider last stage development. So this is the point where everything is supposed to be nailed down to what I believe will be its final text. That will not be its final text. It's just supposed to be as good a job as I personally can do to make it. Then this being, a core rule book of a company owned by other people, including one of the people that created the age system to begin with, there will be other people reading into it to make sure that I didn't do something stupid, which, people can say I'm great all they want, but they don't know how many wonderful developers and editors I've had. I love my developers and editors. They are the only people in the world paid to make me look smarter than I am. So I always want to praise them. And the better a job they do, the less anyone notices. So there will be one more pass for that, and then it will go off to editing. And editing is a crucial stage. For one thing, we have a great professional editor lined up who has had no involvement with the project up to this point. And the reason that is so good is that there could be some turn of phrase that we are all familiar with, that we've mentioned in all of our meetings, that we told to the play testers, that's in everyone's mind, that is crucial to understanding the rule book, that we never explain in the rule book. That sort of thing happens. So when you have someone come in to edit it who is a pro can get around this, but it is, even with a pro, it is very useful to have someone who's coming into it cold so they can read through it and make sure not only is everything in there, but it makes sense in the order it is presented. Presentation of information order is always one of those things that you have to really struggle with a role-playing game. Like, if you use terms before you've defined them, no one really knows what you're talking about with the terms. But if you define everything before you tell people why they care, then it's like reading a tax manual before you get to have fun. So there's this careful balance of trying to say, look, we're making a character. You can get the details of these things later, but here are the basics. It's very simple. Go through this. And then you also sometimes want to do things like have sidebars that say, hey, we're giving you a specialization at first level. You may not have any idea, if you've never played Fantasy Age before, what you want to specialize in. Here are some sort of basic choices for specialization. If you want to be a mage, these two specializations are kind of basic, iconic mage specializations you can pick. And then if later you decide you didn't like that, talk to your GM, because most GMs will let you go, I didn't know what I was doing. I'm not happy with this. I'd like to change my specialization. But again, where to put that information in and how we explain it, it's good to have an editor go over that. Then when it's through editing, some of those will be just changes and some of those will be proposed changes. So it will come back from editing with things like, hey, you said this rule here and you re-explained it differently there. Pick which one you mean and fix it. So that will be a final development pass to implement editing changes. Then it should go into layout. That will be done in-house. And for the Green Ronin process, once it's in layout, we will figure out, based on the layout, what kind of interior art we need for it, and then we'll need to put an art order together, and then we'll need to get the art ordered, and then the art needs to get put in place in the layout, and then that needs to be tweaked and finalized and gone over, including me going over it to make sure that I didn't fail to mark that something should have used a smaller header. So one of the things you sometimes get into is you'll have a section that's supposed to have these great big words that say warriors, and then a smaller section that says knights. And that lets you know visually that knights is suborned to warriors, that you're in the warrior section when you read knights. But if I mark that wrong, the layout person may have warriors in this size and then knights in the same size, and that tells people, in this case wrongly, that knights is the same level of information from warrior, that we've moved out of warrior into knight. So that's just the sort of thing we need to check about. And then, a PDF gets made and it gets sent off to a printer.
It's interesting that this part, because we're shifting into a new world of virtual tabletop support.
Yeah.
This is right where the spot where then it branches. So you do the PDF and you kind of put it out to the printer, and then you shoot another version of that over to me and the VTT team, and we start to slice and dice it and get it ready for Roll20 and Boundary, and so we're working on that process right now. It is, Brain says, a truly Herculean task. Absolutely is. It's overwhelming if you think about it all at once.
Yeah,
For
I mean,
sure.
you literally can't do all those things at the same time. So Stan has done some art for us, Troy, which you can grab on our. Yeah,
Is it in that place where we put that one thing?
It's on the shared Facebook chat with Yumi and Stan.
Don't tell our secrets.
Yeah, I don't figure that's a big deal. Yeah, and like the VTT stuff, I've got more than 20 years experience with print publishing, and I've got, call it 15, 16, 17 years with PDF publishing. And I personally have 0 years of experience with VTT publishing. It's just not, it's there. I know it. I've used some VTTs, but it's not something that I've gotten into. And so that's thankfully Troy and the ops team is here to take care of that, but it's still a giant question mark for me on how that's going to work, when the process is going to go in, and whether I should be thinking about the setup process differently based on what we learn from the stuff we're doing now. And then even after that, there's things like if we're going to have blog posts and running roundtables and marketing text, or, we might do marketing things like run some games using the new core rulebook. There's a lot of stuff out there that's very much on our minds that we can't mostly put our brain power to it, or at least I can't, until this part of the process is done.
Right. Yeah, and it's a newer step, but it does create sort of a situation where you do kind of have to reinvent yourself every once in a while when you're doing this stuff. Just time marches on, and new opportunities mean more people get to play, means we get more of Owen doing good work.
Gosh, I hope so.
Yes, me as well. I am gearing up for our Here we go. This is quality work. I love that. Goodness, I'm going to share
Stan always
this.
does quality work.
Stan is amazing. All right, ready? I do kind of want the Owen by Stan as a plushie. I think that'd be really fun.
I am reasonably sure that would involve either players or GMs using it as a voodoo doll and sticking needles in my head at some point. But so here's the art. You've got little caricature Stan version of me saying Freeport is a very specific monster, and then the horrific pirate hat wearing skull topped blob saying, "I really am."
I love it,
and he really is. That's wow.
I love it.
Now, see, pins. We could make pins of both of those. That would be.
Ooh, good idea. Oh, I want a whole ThursdAGE pin collection. I'm thinking. Hey, a quick question for the folks who are hanging out in chat. If you could get some merch, what would you... Owen merch or ThursdAGE themed merch. Are you t-shirt people? Are you buttons and pins? Are you do you just want to timeshare Owen and have him just come stay with you for a month, and kind of invest over a year? Everyone gets a little bit of the calendar. I like that idea personally.
Stan says we could make pins happen before dinner time.
True that, and t-shirts as well. But yeah. I love it. Thank you very much, Stan. And we've got a whole collection. We ought to do something fun with that. Make a little best of, because I think we're at 5,000 episodes. I think. I believe so.
I mean, you have to note that every time one of us says 2 or 3 words, that's an episode, and then we're running a whole bunch of episodes together for convenience sake.
That's right. Yeah,
that was 5 episodes just there.
That was you've just gone through season 3 and 4. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let's see, what are we looking at for time? Oh, we're doing fine on time.
Yeah, we really are.
We really, really are. Let's see, we've got any other questions. I like that Duke says tiny steps, one after another. Truth. That is truth. Jay says, replying, so Jay had asked if there's a methodology or so when you're working in software, there's approaches to productivity and getting things done, waterfall process, people who are, acolytes of a particular sort of, it's sort of like CrossFit, like when you embrace a specific kind of, program to get the job done, your producers become, very. Then they can become zealots, I mean, it's and then also gets the job done. But for you, Owen, and for people that you've worked with within tabletop, I will say it's a little different than video games.
Yeah, well, so weirdly, it is both more collaborative and less collaborative all at the same time. And I know that sounds a little weird, but in general, video games need to have a lot more things happening at exactly the same time. You kind of need to determine what can the program do at the same time you're determining what do we want it to do. What graphics elements do we need? Well, that depends on how much memory we plan to eat up. Well, that depends on what our game experience is going to be. If people remember when the first expansion for World of Warcraft came out that involved flying, one of the things they said was, but you can't fly in the old areas yet because when we built them, we weren't ever going to let anyone fly, so they look stupid from the air. I mean, literally, that was the problem. Everyone was just going to be running around. We never thought anyone would be able to fly, so we just didn't build it in. And they had to rebuild those areas sort of from the top down, so that a pun on the normal process, so that people could fly in it. So they introduced this new feature, but the old expansion, the original campaign, whatever, wouldn't support it. Whereas with a role-playing game, we can introduce something like, hey, we're having a whole new concept, flying, and someone can just build that looking at the rules we have, but you also have to make sure that it works with a lot of the unwritten rules. I think nearly everything in a video game process is literally a written rule, because if it's not written, the video game doesn't process. But with a role-playing game, you can have a lot of cases like, we have specifically set up Spellfire to make sure that people can't fly around before 9th level because we don't want you to fly over the gorge because we want the gorge to be a low-level adventure. But that's not written in the book anywhere. All that the book says is you learn flight at this level. So you have this process where people can build stuff and throw it in without having to tweak every other thing, but they still have to understand what some of the unspoken assumptions and directions of the game are. And that's one of the reasons I feel it creates a different process. The other thing is that so many more things can be done by just one person. So, ideally someone says, hey, I'm the developer, and the company says, okay, we need this developed by this date. And after that, they kind of don't care. Is it going to be done by then? Then we don't care where you've marked things down or how you did it or what order you did things in. Which is fine as long as you don't have developers changing in the middle of a project, which I have had happen. And the very fact that you tend not to say, okay, I think there are 114 steps in this development process and I've completed 94 of them. Right. Instead, you just send to get, here it is. I'm gone now. Good luck. And you kind of have to start over at the beginning.
Jason says, I can listen to Owen for 4 or more hours. 4.5 hours for me personally. But Stan, yes, we should work with Stan and contract to do some pins. And we will sell each pin for $1 million, and we'll be rich, Stan. Jay Gray asks a very important question, and it's one that we talk about all the time. Is Age going to have a community content creation available? Yes, it is available right now. It's the Age Creators Alliance, and it consists of Modern Age, Fantasy Age. You can pick and create content for those two lines. We are negotiating with ourselves as to when we add Blue Rose to the mix, but right now we're going to kick this stuff off, and we are literally, I am pushing so hard, I'm right at the edge of the cliff and ready to just shove the whole thing over, but you need to get your adventures in or your content in, and
those of you that are launching at the seed stage,
and if you're interested and you just want to say, hey, I want to do that, send a note to Let's Play at greenronin.com. I'll send you all that you need to then spin up your own publishing business, so to speak. I mean, Brian Irving says, I'm working on content for Age Creators Alliance right now as I listen. Nice, Brian. That's great. If there are any other folks that have some questions about that, certainly in the remaining, 8 minutes or so, or 6 minutes or so, you are welcome to chime in. But always send a note to letsplay@greenronin.com if you want to learn a little bit more about how you can get a slice of the Age Creators Alliance.
So I see Rain asked, do you have a favorite part of this core rulebook or part of it you're proud of? I feel some pride about the whole thing. I also feel a little embarrassed in many cases about the whole thing because so many people at Green Ronin have done so much great work to get us to where we are. And I always see, if I look at something I was involved with, it is easy for me to see other people's contributions and just be amazed at how great it is. I am really pleased with the class chapters in particular, and there are some very specific things we did, some of which were pretty controversial. It's one of the reasons we wanted to have a playtest. The adding of a fourth class, the Envoy, was pretty controversial and something we discussed a lot and sort of had to first decide, okay, it's worth trying, and then we had to see if we could build one that felt like it deserved to exist. Right? It's easy to write a class for some sort of class level based game where we just throw some stuff together and we say, hey, you can be a pinky swear knight, and at first level you get pinky swear, you make a pinky swear to someone, and if they're within 10 feet of you and they get stunt points, they get one more stunt point, and then put nothing else in it. And that is not different enough from the other stuff we have to justify its existence. So you sort of have to decide, is the conceptual niche there? And then you have to try and build it. And then we set a playtest, and it's got some changes coming as a result of playtesting. But as I mentioned, the Rogue also has some changes as a result of playtesting with the Envoy, where we wanted to make it clear that we are not trying to just steal cookies from the Rogue's plate and give them to the Envoy. We're trying to create two separate things. And it can be a little tricky because, pretty much only mages have access to spells. There are some specializations and talents that alter that, but as a broad concept, whereas all the classes can fight, all the classes can talk, and all the classes can sneak. So
and
how
snog? They can snog and sneak and talk and
yeah.
Okay? Nice. I like that.
They can all talk. They can all sneak. They can all fight
and snog.
And snog.
Yeah, I love that. Owen, it is 2:56 Pacific, and you know what that means? We're almost done. There are a few comments that I want to grab. Do you want to put a little cap on this part of it, and we can sort of prepare for our exodus?
Absolutely. I will say, if there's anything else that people are specifically wondering about the core rulebook, now that we're at the sort of revealing about the text stage, since the setting was the last sort of text secret I was holding back for a while, send those questions to Let's Play, and we will get to them in a future episode.
100%. I like that. What is it? Oh, he's using text secret. Let's see here. It stands as
the cover's an art secret that we're saving for later.
That's true. Yeah, the text secret is out. Genius Guide to the Pinky Swear Knight. I love that. Now, for some reason I just imagine just a real moody Pinky just being like, "Go screw yourself." Let's see. Yes, Brian Irving. We do listen to people who feedback is really. Jason, take care of yourself. Thank you for stopping by. But for folks who you bring new facets to our work, and for instance, what was once the Creators Alliance is now the Creatures Alliance. Thanks to Brian. So if you'd like to be a part of the Creatures Alliance, send us a note about that. And Stan Brown says all the classes can snog as well. Yeah, that's what I thought too. That just means smooching, right? Isn't that just British smooching?
To the best of my knowledge, but there are some terms that are innocent enough in my native vernacular that aren't when you get to Britain and Australia that I don't make any promises what it means.
Pip, old shoe. Let's see. Looking good. Okay, so listen, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We've had a ton of people stop by, and some of our old friends have come back, and some of our new friends who were old friends or new friends again. It's just, it's pretty phenomenal, and this is a joy. We really do have a good time. As we round out this particular episode of ThursdAGE with Owen KC Stephens. Owen, do you want to, is there anything you want to share or shill, sort of, alert people to that may not necessarily be connected to the to your work with Green Ronin or Fantasy Age?
No, not right at the moment. Nothing specific. And anyone that's looking for more information about my stuff, what I'm doing, my thinking, can always follow me on social media. It's Owen_Stephens on Facebook and Owen.Stephens, I believe, on Twitter. Or you can just go to OwenKCStephens.com, which is my blog and links to everything, including my Patreon.
Here's what I'd like you to do, friends. I'd like you to do that because Owen is a delight all over the place. So he's got that Owen has a Patreon. The other thing that you ought to do is go to our YouTube page. It's Green Ronin Publishing. Subscribe. We need more people subscribing. We should have more. We get lots of great comments and people just forget to. But then also, like a few videos, leave comments about how awesome Owen is. Do all of that stuff. Gary Avenger says, we're loving Green Ronin, Owen, and Ian's Games as well. Thanks for doing these chats. You're welcome, Gary. Gary's kicking off a stream for The Expanse.
And yes, which we're very excited by, and I hope we will link to when this video goes up. And I want to note, this is how much I get things backwards badly. My Twitter is Owen_Stephens, and my Facebook is Owen KC Stephens. So if you're following Owen_Stephens on Facebook, let me know what he's doing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. You know what? You'll find Owen. He's out there doing his thing. I particularly enjoy your Twitter. It is fun and thought-provoking and always authentically warm and right there in the midst of all this stuff, being sort of a calm voice in what can be pretty tumultuous space out there in Twitter. So listen, friends, we're done for the day. Thank you so much for hanging out. ThursdAGE comes to you every Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific. On Mondays we do Mutants and Masterminds Monday, and that's with Crystal Fraser, Steve Kenson. We also get Alex pops in. He is a new assistant designer, and we've got some really fun things happening. So do check out that particular stream as well, and Owen and I will be back on Thursday. In the meantime, if you have any questions or things that you would like to find out, or maybe you want Owen just to stat this, create some art, and let's see if we can flap him. If so, send a note to letsplay@greenronin.com, and we shall see you very, very soon. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Owen.
Thanks, Troy.